dangerous weapon. It had only one fault. You could not hit anything with it. One of our conductors practiced a while on a cow with it, and as long as she stood still and behaved herself, she was safe. But as soon as she went to moving about and he got to shooting at other things, she came to grief. My brother, Mr. Secretary, had a small-sized Colt revolver for protection against the Indians, and to guard against accidents he carried it uncapped. George Bemis was our fellow-traveler. We'd never seen him before. He wore in his belt an old original Allen revolver, such as irreverent people call a pepper box. Simply drawing the trigger back, cocked and fired the pistol. To aim along the turning barrel and hit the thing aimed at was a feat which was probably never done with an Allen in the world. But George's was a reliable weapon, nevertheless, because, as one of the stage drivers afterwards said, if she didn't get what she went after, she'd fetch something else. And so she did. When George was practicing with her, he went after a deuce of spades nailed against a tree, and fetched a mule standing about 30 yards to the left of it. Bemis did not want the mule, but the owner came out with a double-barreled shotgun and persuaded him to buy it anyhow. Well, by and by we set off and were spinning along through Kansas, and in the course of an hour and a half we were fairly abroad on the Great Plains. We three were the only passengers this trip. The driver changed our horses every 10 miles all day long, and fairly flew across the hard, level road. We, of course, jumped out and stretched our legs every time the coach stopped, and so the night found us still vivacious and unfatigued. Well, after supper, a woman got in who lived about 50 miles further on, and we three had to take turns at sitting outside with the driver and conductor. Apparently, she was not a talkative woman. She would sit there in the gathering twilight and fasten her steadfast eyes on a mosquito rooting into her arm, and slowly she would raise her other hand till she'd got its range, and then she would launch a slap at him that would have jolted a cow. And after that she would sit and contemplate the corpse with tranquil satisfaction, for she never missed her mosquito. She was a dead shot at short range. She never removed a carcass, but left 'em there for bait. Well, I sat by this grim sphinx and watched her kill 30 or 40 mosquitoes. Watched her, and I waited for her to say something, anything. But she never did. So finally I opened the conversation myself. I said, "The mosquitoes are pretty bad about here, madam." "You bet." What did I understand you to say, madam?" "You bet." Then she cheered up and faced round and said, "Danged if I didn't think you fellas was deef and dumb. I did, b'gosh. Here I sought a bustin' mosquitoes, and I wonder what was ailing you. First I thought you was sick or crazy or something, and then by and by I began to reckon you was a passel of sickly fools that couldn't think of nothing to say. Where you come from?" The Sphinx was a Sphinx no more. The fountains of her great deep were broken up, and she reigned the 9 parts of speech 40 days and 40 nights, metaphorically speaking. How we suffered and suffered and suffered. She went on, hour after hour, till I was sorry I ever opened the mosquito question and gave her a start. She never did stop again until she got to a journey's end towards daylight. And then she stirred us up as she was leaving the stage, for we were nodding by that time, and said, "Now, you get out at Cottonwood, you fellers, and you lay over a couple days, and I'll be along sometime tonight, and if I can do you any good by edging in a word now and then, well, I'm right thar. Folks'll tell you that I've always been kind of offish and particular for a gal that's been raised in the woods, and I am with the ragtag and bobtail, and a gal has to be if she wants to be anything. But when people comes along which is my equals, so to speak, I reckon I'm a pretty sociable heifer after all." We resolved not to lay by at Cottonwood. At noon on the 5th day out, we crossed the sand hills near the scene of the Indian mail robbery and massacre of 1856, wherein the driver and conductor perished, and also all the passengers but one, it was supposed. But this might have been a mistake, for at different times afterwards on the Pacific coast I was personally acquainted with 133 or 4 people who were wounded during that massacre and barely escaped with their lives.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.